All right, welcome to another episode of Delayed Offside. Our fearless leader and host Baron is unfortunately
Oh,
not
okay.
able to make it today. Had some plumbing issues with a dishwasher that he's currently working
That's
on.
code for he had bad Mexican food last night.
Something got plugged anyways, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to fill in as best as I can. And joining me, not as always, but oftentimes, Adam Williams and Sunjay are both here. Thank you, boys, for joining me. So, I want to get to obviously the Tampa Bay, New York series and then the Stanley Cup Final. But, first of all, Sunjay, this is the first time we've had you on the show since Calgary bowed out. And, we just haven't seen you since then. You kind of tucked your tail and ran. And, we're not going to allow that here on this show. You have to eat crow on the show after your team loses in the playoffs. And so I know it's kind of old news now, but we're going to do a brief synopsis here. I want to hear from you. Why do you think the Flames lost out?
Oh, geez, that's a loaded question. If you asked me that 2 weeks ago, it'd be a lot different answer. But now that I've had some
down
time
since then
to reflect, and it wasn't all a giant conspiracy, and the league wasn't against them. Well, I mean, I think they maybe made a bad call. I don't think the league's against them. I just think it was a bad call. I don't think that was kicking, or at least I don't think it was. What's the ruling, like intentional kick or like
kicking motion?
Yeah, a kicking motion. Like, come on. And like I'm one to call it straight. Like, I thought that the Colorado goal was offside. I admit that in game 1 against Edmonton, but I just didn't think that was a kicking motion. Like, you're gonna call that distinct? That's it, distinct kicking motion. You're gonna call that in game 5 with like 4 minutes to go. And I'm not gonna say Calgary was going to win that game because that game was crazy. Like, Calgary scored, Edmonton scored right back. Calgary scored, Edmonton scored right back. Like, Edmonton could have easily scored on the next faceoff. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they should have had the chance to protect that lead and see where it would have led, because I think that was a legitimate goal. And I think they made the wrong call again against Calgary. Seems to be a pattern. It's just always against Calgary. Oh, hey, it's the playoffs. Calgary scored a goal. Don't count it. Don't count it. Don't count it. Time and time again, it's kind of brutal. But I actually think, why did Calgary lose that series? I think it was a lot closer than a 5-game series might suggest. Like, if you look at all the games, only game 3, I would say they had no chance of winning. Every other game was kind of tied into third period. And then Edmonton just had, this sucks to say, Edmonton just had the answer in the third period, and they had McDavid and Draisaitl and Hyman and Kane. Like, they were firing on all cylinders. They played a terrific series, the Oilers. Everyone except for Mike Smith, I think, played really good for the Oilers. Yeah. So, hats off to Edmonton. They won. It sucks. It sucks a little less that Edmonton's not in the Cup Final. Like, if Edmonton had gone on to win the Stanley Cup, then it would have really hurt. That sucked. It was a fun Battle of Alberta experience. My first time experiencing it, but I hope I never see that again. Because at least until McDavid's not playing for Edmonton, that would be nice.
Yeah, Markstrom was the big surprise for me.
So disappointing.
Vezina caliber season. He's up for that award, and he just fell apart in that series. He just couldn't. What are you doing there, Adam? Oh,
I see what you're doing.
I see what you're doing.
Just rubbing it in, man. You already won. Take the victory. Okay, don't kick a man when he's down.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know what was going on with Markstrom, but he just had no answer for the Oilers in that series.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense because, like, against Dallas, he was really good. Like, you go back in that game 7, he kept the Flames in it in overtime. Like, Dallas had numerous chances, and Markstrom stood tall and, shut the door. I mean, Dallas doesn't have the firepower that Edmonton has, but still, like, you shouldn't go from like a 1.8 or whatever goals against average to like a 6. Like, that is just astronomical change. Like, I've never seen anything like that before.
Do you think he plays up or down to the goaltender he's facing?
Yeah, he's like, Ottinger over there stealing the show, so I got to play good. And then when he sees Smith, he kind of relaxes and he's like, I got
Maybe
it.
he just respects his elders, and so kind of
well, I don't know.
He couldn't disrespect Smith that way.
I don't know why Sutter didn't play Vladar. Dan Vladar, the backup, more than capable. Like he was a pretty capable backup. At least give him a shot, see what this kid could do.
That's pretty tough though, to pull out your Vezina nominated goalie in the middle of a series.
But if you're giving up 6 goals a game, is it really that tough?
Like, it would take balls to do it though.
That fifth game for sure. Give it a shot. I was thinking the same thing with Edmonton, with Colorado. I was like, why aren't they letting Koskinen have a shot? Like we're going into game 4. There's no answer. They're scoring with no like problem on Smith. Like put Koskinen. His numbers against Colorado in the regular season were fine.
I am actually a little surprised with that because during the regular season, it seemed that Edmonton used Koskinen and Smith as more of a 1A, 1B, right? And it worked really well when they would have Smith start the most of the two, but have Koskinen come in to give Smith some rest. And I really thought we would see that in the playoffs, and they just decided to ride Smith.
Yeah, I mean,
Games
go ahead.
Games passed him by. His goals against average was awful as well. Like, let's not beat around the bush and call him a legend. Edmonton had to play 80s hockey in this playoff, and that's not sustainable. And we saw that against the Avalanche. And, I just, as much as he battles, I just think his style of play does not fit the game anymore.
He's very lucky they won that game 4. If they had lost with Calgary scoring from their own end of the ice, that series could have been completely different. Like Smith could have completely fallen apart, and the Oilers would have had no confidence going into game 5. So he's very lucky that they won game 4. So it didn't matter. And it was just a non-issue, because that would have been the most talked about news story for like days until game 5. Right. And like, maybe he would have bounced back, but I think that could have been like a backbreaker. So, I mean, credit to him for bouncing back, but you shouldn't have to bounce back time and time again in the playoffs. Like game 1 against LA, he coughs up the puck. He bounces back, plays well a couple of games. Game 1 against Calgary, poor, bounces back, plays well. Game 4, plays poor, bounces back. Like it seemed like he always is bouncing back. Like once in a playoff, okay. Even Patrick Waugh had bad games in the playoffs, but he had they played how many games? They played 16 games. He may have had 8 bad games, right? Like that's just too much to overcome.
Way too much coughing up the puck, way too much. And then having to make desperation, pad stacking saves. Like that's not a good thing when you're having to make saves like that.
You were saying credit to Smith for rebounding after that bad goal, but I actually think you have to give credit to Edmonton, the guys playing in front of them, because Sunjay, I remember messaging in that Twitter convo, I just start peppering Smith, I'd said, because you let in something like that, he's going to be rattled. And honestly, I can't recall that many more shots from Calgary from that point forward. Like Edmonton just poured it on after that and really helped out Smith, I thought. So I think he got some help there for sure.
It didn't help having your 4th line out against Edmonton's top line with 2 minutes to go in that third period. I don't know.
Old school coach, man.
I don't know. I think I don't know what was going on, but he just did not line match the whole time. And then when he did line match and he put Backlund's line up against Connor McDavid's line, McDavid still put up points, but it wasn't as much as before. He was not held in check, but he was held a little bit. He was super sane, and then he was just a regular human. You know what I mean? Backlund did pretty good against him, and then he kind of went away. So, and in overtime in game 5, Backlund wasn't out against McDavid. So I don't know, because McDavid plays a ton. Maybe he just couldn't go out the whole time, but it's kind of it sucks because if you look at the pieces on paper, you think Calgary would have the horses to, ride against Edmonton. You got a coach that won Coach of the Year. You got a player that finished 2nd for defensive forward, and you got a goalie who finished probably top 3. Yeah, at least top 3 for Vezina. And then you got Johnny Gaudreau, who finished 4th in points. On paper, this team is okay, if you're going to bring someone to a shootout against the Oilers, this is the team you'd want. And it turned out this wasn't the team you wanted. So I don't know what Calgary's going to look like for next year.
Yeah.
They could either be like the same and maybe just make some tweaks, or they could be like Montreal and like battling for Connor Bedard, because if they lose Gaudreau and if Kachuk goes as well, it's going to be an awful season for Calgary, no matter who's behind the bench for them. Like, it's going to be a really bad season. And I'm so glad that I joined season tickets for next year. hopefully Gaudreau resigns and I have something to cheer about next year.
Yeah, it'll definitely be an interesting off season for the Flames. Okay, well, moving past the Battle of Alberta. Thank you,
This
Sunjay.
is the Battle of Alberta podcast. That's all we're going to talk about.
I know. I was like, quickly, let's talk about it. It's been like 10 minutes in, but that's fine. That's, I wanted
like
you
therapy.
to let
this
it
is
out.
like therapy.
Exactly. You have to let it out. You have to let it out on the show and get it off your chest.
Oh,
and with that, welcome to the Delayed Offside.
All right, so before we move on to talk about the Lightning Rangers series, just want to quickly thank everyone for watching. And if you could please subscribe, we would really appreciate it. We're up to 355 subscribers. If we could get up to 400 somehow by the end of this playoffs, that would be amazing. That's a bit of a stretch, but who knows? Maybe you guys can get us there. And then feel free to comment below and we'll answer any questions you leave there on the next pod. So yeah, let's go Lightning Rangers. This was an interesting one, I thought, in that the Rangers came out on fire, and they were up 2-0. And then the Lightning battled back, won 4 straight, won the series in 6. Adam, what were your thoughts on the series?
Well, I think it was really interesting. It really came down to the battle of the goaltenders, which is kind of what we thought it was going to be, Shesterkin versus Vasilevsky. And ultimately, you had your experience shine through with the Tampa Bay Lightning against a team that was then overconfident and going into Tampa with a 2-0 lead. Right, series isn't over until you lose at home, and that's exactly how the Tampa Bay Lightning approached it. You had Steven Stamkos just showing up and rifling home goals like nobody's business. He showed up. You see some little bit of Kucherov, but I think the shining star in that series was Stamkos and Vasilevsky.
Yeah, and I think it's quite incredible how the Lightning seem to be able to adjust to the style of the team that they're playing. Like you saw it against the Leafs. They didn't really have to do it against Florida, but then you saw it against the Rangers, right? Like they kind of figure out what they need to do and make the tweaks that's necessary, and then are able to kind of counter what they're seeing. I also think, and I kind of said before the series, the Rangers really do rely a lot on their goaltending, and I think you kind of saw it again in this series. Like Shesterkin was on fire. He stole them a couple games there, but really overall, like the Lightning really dominated play. The Rangers had a good special teams, like their power play was on fire, and then Shesterkin kept them in it. But I really think that Tampa proved they were the better team.
Well, and you got the touch of Gallant too. Like he's a coach that takes teams to conference finals.
You just can't get over the hump.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think like it all came down to game 3. Like Tampa Bay was up New York was up 2-0, and they were up going into the third, was it? And then Tampa Bay just no fear in that team, and they have no reason to be, and their fans too, right? Like this is their 3rd Stanley Cup final in a row, which hasn't been done since the 80s, which is incredible given the salary cap era and, the parity in the league and so many like superstars. And like, it's tough to get out of the East, and they've done it 3 times in a row against 3 different opponents, like in the Eastern Conference Finals. So, no fear at all. They just have this confidence about themselves that no matter the situation, no matter the score, they'll find a way to win it.
And that 3-repeat will be incredible if they pull it off. And we'll get to that in a sec, but I kind of want to touch on the Rangers just for a little bit before we move on to the Cup final, and kind of acknowledge what they did. Like this is a team, they announced to their fans in 2018 they were going to do a full rebuild. And it's been 4 years later, and they made it to the East Final. Sunjay, do you think they were just lucky, Or do you think this team is actually good and getting better and will at some point become a powerhouse in the East?
Oh, I think a little bit of both. Like they got a little bit lucky to get past Pittsburgh. If Crosby never got injured, and if they weren't playing against their second or third string goalie, probably Pittsburgh wins that series in like 5. But hey, they had a break and they took advantage of it, and they were able to move on to the Eastern Conference Final. And
they got a break against Carolina too, because Freddie Anderson
right.
never played in that series, and they lost Antti Ranta for part of that series as well. So they didn't face a starting goaltender until the Eastern Final,
which is pretty nice to have, right? Like, I don't know, like it would be nice if Calgary didn't have to play Ottinger in the first round. I'm just saying, we had to play Dallas's backup, it would have been fine. So they got a break, but then you look at like how young their roster is. Lafreniere, Adam Fox, Zibanejad is young, Shesterkin's young. They're all.
Is Zibanejad young? How old is he? I think he's like his late 20s.
Well, that's young-ish. Like he's younger than me, and I'm still a young guy.
Well, we're old.
Right? I'm still young.
He's
still
29.
Cool.
He's 29.
Yeah,
so I mean, he's
young. He's young. He's only been able to drink in the States
tail end of his prime, but still in his prime.
Oh no, the way people take care of their bodies now. 29 he's going to be in his prime for another 5-6 years. Like they got time.
I agree. You watch that smirk peel on.
I feel like I'm still in my prime. You
usually see a decline from players, from 30-ish, 32 on. Some guys never age, but a lot of guys you start to see a decline in the 30s.
No,
it's true.
Not like elite players like him. Like
how long has Zibanejad been elite for?
Well, maybe that's good for him. He's not playing 20 minutes a game since he was 18. He can go into it. He doesn't have like miles on that chassis, right? He's not like a Darcy Tucker or someone that's.
You're comparing him to Darcy Tucker.
Well, I was trying to think of someone, someone that has like a lot of miles that's like older than.
He's like, who else had long hair?
Yeah,
who else had long hair?
Who else played
Darcy
for
Tucker
Eastern Conference and had hair? Darcy Tucker, right? That's what I would think of. So I mean, even like like Matt Sundin played pretty good in his 30s, So I mean, they got time, and as he ages, then the younger players will kind of take over that first line role, and he'll get bumped down the lineup a little bit. So I think Rangers are going to be good for a number of years. Like even Capo Kakinen, like he didn't even play. He got benched in the last game, and so he's a player that could be traded for a lot of assets, or he could have a good off season and come back stronger and make that lineup be an everyday player.
Yeah, he's only 21, and I think
he's past his prime according to Elon.
He's 2 years out.
Yeah,
it's actually.
They should already start planning their exit strategy with them. Like, all right, well, he's 21 now. He's only going to be good for another 8 years. So
get the banner.
Yeah. You got to manage those assets, man. Got to manage those assets. But touching on the young guys. Like I honestly look at the Rangers, and I'm honestly scared of this team, because number one, they have an elite goalie, and how many teams can actually claim they have an elite goalie in the NHL? Like Tampa, Winnipeg, maybe Rangers,
Vancouver,
Nashville,
Anaheim, Gibson.
Used to be. He's been bad like the past few years.
Calgary.
So I mean, there's only like a handful of like elite goalies, and they have one of them, and that's already key. I mean, this was really Shesterkin's first big year, though, right? So I mean, I guess we'll have to see if he can be consistently this good, but if he can. That's already like the first step, and a big step, because a lot of teams are always trying to figure out the goaltending situation, right? Like lots of teams struggle to find like a solid goaltender to help carry them through the playoffs. And then like you just look at the rebuild, they just did it right. Like they made some really shrewd moves, right? They had trades to bring in guys like Adam Fox and Zibanejad and Strome. They signed an elite player in Panarin in free agency. But I think it's actually going to be the drafting. And you were touching on the young guys. I think it's going to be the drafting that's, once these players that they drafted start developing into the superstars that they hope they're going to become. If they do, I think that's what's going to push them over the edge. So like Capo Kakko, like you said, or Alexis Lafreniere, or Keandre Miller. Like they're not producing at elite levels yet, And I think if and when they do, I think that's when you're going to see the Rangers become a premier team in this league for years to come. Like, I honestly think they could be like, you kind of go through stretches of, dominant teams, right? So like forever it was Chicago and LA and Pittsburgh and Washington, right? Boston, Vancouver, like those kind of teams were always in it. Like, I could see New York being one of those teams in a few years, being like one of those premier teams for like a decade. I could honestly see that.
Like how lucky is the Rangers? One, they get Henrik Lundqvist for like 14 years, like a Hall
and
of
it was
Fame
before him,
goalie.
wasn't it Richter?
Yeah, they had Mike Richter, then they go Richter, Lundqvist, and then they get Shesterkin. Like, what?
Georgiev's not bad at all either. Like,
yeah, he's a good goalie too, right? Like, he played some of that Pittsburgh series.
Yeah.
And like, I think New York has like an not unfair, but like, it seems like more people want to play for the Rangers than like any other
It's New
team.
York,
like,
right?
well, so is the Islanders, so are the Devils. Like, why is the Rangers? They haven't won a Stanley Cup in 20 years. Like
22
more 20, like
1990. Wait, no.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Oh,
That was
94.
94.
I'm trying to do the
94,
math.
yeah.
So 28
32.
years. 28 years. Yeah. They haven't
No,
won a cup.
32.
Is it 32?
It's 32. 22 minus 30.
What?
22 minus 30. Is that what you just said?
Yeah. 90.
Wait, hold on.
90 to 2000 is 10.
Yeah.
2000 to 2010 is 20.
Yeah.
2010 to 2020 is 30 plus 2 is 32 years.
But they won in 94.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought they
against
won
the
it in
Canucks.
90. No, that
No.
was the Oilers. Oh,
Oh, man.
Oh,
You
Oh
call
my
yourself
God,
an
my
Oilers
bad.
fan.
oh my goodness.
oh my God. I can
That was
always
the
go
other
back. Always
Messier
Maybe
win.
Messier.
I was
That was the
Messier
other
had the
Messier
cup
win.
twice. Maybe he
Right?
thought like, oh, Messier, so it must be
That's
the Rangers.
exactly what I thought. My head went to that team, which virtually won the cup. It was an Oilers team that won in New York.
Yeah, well, whenever I think of Messier personally, I think of him as a Ranger as well. So I could
Because you
totally
always see that highlight of him with like hoisting that cup in a Rangers jersey, right? Like,
yeah, right.
the only time I
Like-
ever see highlights of Messier with Oilers is when he's like hugging Gretzky, who's holding the cup.
Or when he's dirtying up the Flames. Just such a dirty player.
He was,
Calgary.
but so good. Like, anyone
No.
would want Messier on their team.
Not Vancouver.
Well, he was on there, so.
They couldn't get rid of him fast.
Oh God.
Everyone but Vancouver would like Messi on their team.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, let's see. I don't know how I transitioned from Messier to back to the Cup Finals. From one Stanley Cup champion to the potential Stanley Cup champions. How about that? Let's talk about these Stanley Cup Finals, man. And honestly, guys, I'm excited for this series. To be honest, I think it's the first time in quite a while where I feel like it's two legitimate powerhouses and Cup favorites meeting in the final. Like, it's felt like there's been quite a few years where we've had these Cinderella stories, which are fun. But you kind of always deep down know what the end result's going to be. And honestly, for this one, I don't know who's going to win it. Like, it's honestly a toss up for me. I could see either team taking this. Adam, what are your thoughts on this series and what are your feelings around it? Don't give us a prediction yet. Just curious about your overall feelings of the matchup.
It's tough because it's really hard to count.
Can you get a
out.
little closer to your microphone, bud? You're hard to hear.
It's tough because
Yeah.
He doesn't want to talk good about Colorado. He's like, oh, those guys.
Yeah. Okay, I'm good. I'm good.
Oh yeah, you were just to the side of it. That's all.
Oh, I was just wondering if a kid, but they can't reach it. Never mind.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, I can hear you.
It's really hard to count out a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have done it over and over. They know how to do it. They've got core pieces. And then you've got guys that have been there for the first time on the other side in Nathan McKinnon and Gabriel Landeskog and Mikko Rantanen. You've got a goaltender that is maybe the greatest goaltender of our generation in Vasilevsky going up against Darcy Kemper, Francouz. Like, that's to me, that's going to matter.
Yeah.
Can the Avalanche beat Tampa Bay 4 times? And you know what? The Maple Leafs sure couldn't. So no one else can.
Took him to 7. Only team to do it so far.
I mean, that's something. That is something.
That's something. I'll hang my hat on that. Sunjay, what are your thoughts heading to this series? Are you excited about it at all?
Yeah, like normally by the time the Stanley Cup Finals roll around, if Calgary's not in it, which is very rare, I kind of like lose interest because I'm like, I don't know, like, yeah, whatever. But this series, I honestly have no idea how it's gonna go. And growing up, like I was a huge Avalanche fan for a number of years. Like I remember that 2001 Cup run when they won with Ray Bourque. Like that was like as if the Flames won the Cup. Like I was like that invested. Like and Sakic's my guy. He's my favorite player. Him and Iginla are my 2 favorite players of all time. And so I really want to see him hoist the cup again as the GM. And he's done a terrific job with Colorado. And then on the other side, you got Tampa Bay, which those jerks won the cup in 2004, and I've never forgiven them for it. So it's pretty easy for me who to cheer for. But I like that it's so like, it's like a WWE wrestling match. You got like the heel in Tampa Bay, and you got the baby face in Colorado. So I think this is perfect. Yeah, this is just like WrestleMania. This is like WrestleMania, Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior.
Well, those are 2 faces, bud.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, this is more like Bret Hart
Hogan
against
Andre?
Shawn Michaels. Yeah, that would work too. Maybe Stone Cold
and you know what, Tampa
Shawn
could be
Michaels.
Andre because they've won 2, right? So they're the giant right now.
Right? And they got to do the Hulkamania challenge. Like, is Nathan McKinnon gonna slam?
Is Gary Bettman, Bobby Heenan?
Could it be
the Weasel?
Bam Bam Bigelow versus Luna Vachon?
Oh yeah. Well, no, Luna was his manager.
I know, that's why it would be beautiful. Bam Bam doing cartwheels across the ring.
Totally
one of my favorite wrestlers.
I don't understand this.
You can tell who watched wrestling as a kid and who didn't.
I know. I loved wrestling as a kid. I love Bam Bam Bigelow. I call my dad Papa Shango.
Papa Shango, yeah, Godfather.
Yeah, unreal. Yeah, he was a couple different guys, right? Dude Love and
that
that's
was Mick Foley.
Love, but it was what was it?
Yeah, you're a huge wrestling fan, Adam.
I was back in the day. The Undertaker.
Yeah, who is that Stone Cold? Who is that Stone Cold?
Steve Austin. That's where I kind of started to lose
Stone Cold Bill Goldberg.
I started to fall off in that era. I was more like Big Boss Man.
How did you fall off in that era? That was the greatest era of
wrestling. That was our prime.
When The Rock came. The Rock and Steve Austin were get off it. Get off it, people.
Sorry, you said you got into it when The Rock came, or that's when you left?
No, that's when I came back into it.
Okay.
Not young Rock, but when he was like, if you smell, that Rock.
So good, right?
Yeah, so good.
So good.
Those were awesome wrestling years for sure.
Oh,
I just like this quick talking, right? And that's exactly what the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to do. They're going to take these jabroni Avs and kick their ass down Drop Kick Boulevard into the SmackDown Hotel. If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
Now do the people's eyebrow.
Oh, can you do it?
That's what I do. My wife can do it no problem. It's insane.
I hate those people.
Yeah.
Because I wish I could.
Sanjay, quickly getting back to hockey. This is not a wrestling podcast. Although we should start one because I love wrestling. Definitely
yeah, man. Let's do it up for the off season. Like double count out or something.
What's that?
Call it double count out or disqualification. I don't know, something, but we got to do
like
it.
The equivalent of like what a delayed offside is, but like find it for wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Unconscious
10 count out or something. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Sanjay was saying before he was talking about this series that with Calgary out of it, sometimes it's hard to get into it. Adam, like your team just lost. Like,
let's remind him of that.
The Leafs have been out of it since the first round. I've had time to lick my wounds. Sanjay, you're a little more recent, but I mean, you've had at least a round. Williams, are you actually going to be able to get into this series? Because I know it took me a while to like actually care about hockey again. Are you actually going to be able to get into this series?
I'm going to be completely honest.
You're away from the microphone again.
I was debating. Maybe it's because I slammed it down when I did my rock.
Probably, yeah.
Just
broke his mic.
It was worth it though.
It was $200. But The trouble is I needed to do some budgeting, and some of the cuts came at cable's expense. So, unless I'm going out somewhere or I'm finding like a different stream or something like that, I probably will not.
Oh, you're not going to get the Sportsnet app?
I'm not going to get it until October.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess why you get it for.
That's when I'll pay for the year, and I'm sure I get it for the full year. That gives me all the fixins, as they would say, the accoutrement. I didn't want to laugh at my own joke, but then Sunjay laughed.
But someone had to. So.
Sunjay was like, that idiot.
My God.
So I don't know. I would like to catch a game or two, to be completely honest, but that's when I'll be ringing your doorbell, Pelon.
Yep. Well, come on over. At least for the Stanley Cup Finals games, like once we get to game elimination games, then we can actually get together.
And I had fans commenting on the weigh-ins, a lot of Avs fans actually, that were saying they really enjoyed my takes and how they were unbiased, which
it was nice, man. You had some really nice comments.
Weird. I didn't think I was like, I thought I was biased, but
I thought you were biased because you were basically saying the refs stole it away from the Oilers. So I was shocked that the Avs fans were so.
But
behind.
no, they were calling
just gracious winners. They're like, wow.
Oh man, they loved it. They loved it, and they're like, "Can you please do this for the rest of the playoffs, like for the Stanley Cup Finals too?" And I was,
I guess you're not going to if you're not watching it, right?
He just make it up. He's like, "Oh yeah,
what a game! Joe Sakic got it to Forsberg just in time."
Where are those Steve Dangle watch-alongs? Is that on YouTube?
No, don't promote someone else.
Yeah, they are.
That way you could watch it that way at least.
Oh, we could go live.
Oh, and then you could do like your Steve Dangle ripoff, watching Steve Dangle watching the game. That's perfect.
You hit a nerve. He didn't laugh at that one. You hit a nerve.
My Steve Dangle ripoff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you call it OFR, like it's
Oilers fan reaction video.
Yeah. That's fine. I'm not saying there's other ripoffs of Steve Dangle. Like it's not a big deal. Like you bring your own little twist to it. It's not exactly the same as Steve Dangle,
but he's the first one to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like everyone's going to be
on a popular format.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you bring your little twist to it, but people are still going to compare. Yeah. And they do in the comments all the time. They say like, hey, like this is kind of like Steve Dangle. Like I really like what you're doing. So
and I bring a Rick Mercer stat.
Right. So you rip off two people is what you do.
He's gonna start talking to Americans, asking them about Canada.
Oh man, I love talking to Americans. Oh,
that's what I should say. I'm in my igloo right now.
Yeah.
About to send my grandma out on the ice on the iceberg to perish.
Global warming is melting my home.
Oh God!
Please save Adam. He can't get the cable because he's got to pay for new snow.
Maybe we should just start a GoFundMe.
The water's melting the line
Adam to keep his cable.
It's real dangerous out there. Kids are getting electrocuted. Electrocuted. I don't know. How would a Canadian say it to them?
Oh yeah,
probably like that.
Oh, electrocuted.
All right, let's move on.
Good luck.
Let's get into comparing the teams here.
Ooh.
So here we have the Avalanche and Lightning. This is their playoff stats. Both teams, fantastic possession teams. They control majority of the chances. The thing that pops out at me that was surprising to me was Tampa's offense has really been quite, I don't want to say abysmal, but not to their usual high octane self in these playoffs. 2.11 at least at even strength, but even if you look at their power play, not exactly the highest in these playoffs either, kind of middle of the pack. And then on the other side, you look at Colorado's goals against per 60 at even strength, and you might think maybe their defense isn't as great. This might be an offense versus defense battle, but the fact is Colorado's defensive stats are actually really good, like just as good, if not better than Tampa's. Their defense is incredible. It's actually their goaltending that's been letting them down in the goals against department. So this really is kind of a offense versus goaltending scenario here, if you're looking at like the weaknesses of either team. So I kind of want to touch on those 2 points and get your guys' thoughts on them. Maybe we'll start with Sunjay. I'll throw to you. Do you think Tampa can contend with Colorado's offense? Do you think they can pour it on just like Colorado can? Or if not, do you think, can they shut Colorado's offense down?
I think they can contend. I mean, you look at who they beat to get here. Toronto, high scoring team. You got your Matthews, your Marners, your Tavarises, your Nylanders. They're an offensive juggernaut. Tampa was able to play with them. And then you go next round to the Florida Panthers, highest scoring team in the league and highest scoring team in a long time. Like that team, dominated. Like and they were able to corral them, and their offense was able to contend with them and run with them. So I have no doubt that they could. I mean, you look at Colorado. Colorado has offense, but they're losing Nazem Kadri in this series. I think he's out.
I've heard he might come back at some point this series.
Okay. And Braden Point for Tampa's coming back as well.
Yes, he's going to be back. I think first game. It's looking like he's
back
taking regular skates.
Yeah, so absolutely, they'll have no problem. I'm not worried about Tampa, keeping up with Colorado's offense, because they've played, frankly, in my opinion, teams with better offenses in Florida and Toronto, and they more than ran with them. So nope, not worried. I mean, I'm worried because I'm cheering for the Avalanche, but if I'm the Lightning, I'm not worried.
Yeah, and I think Tampa's offensive numbers dipped a bit because of the Rangers, and really because of Shesterkin. I don't think their offense is as bad as what those stats appear to be. I didn't look into seeing what their stats looked like before playing the Rangers, but guaranteed it took a nosedive after having to.
Come on, Pilon. This is a professional podcast.
I know.
Adam are putting so much work in, and you couldn't have gone in and done two.
That's what happens when Barron's not here to take the hosting reins. I got to worry about questions and not looking into just stats for answers. So that's what you get. That's what you get when I'm the host, is just complete utter failure.
And I get a hell yeah.
Oh, you do know Stone Cold Bill Goldberg.
I told you I knew Stone Cold.
And especially with Braden Point coming back too. You mentioned that. Like, I mean, he's obviously, I would say Kucherov's are like number one offensive weapon, but like I put Point there at number two for the team. And they haven't had him for 2 rounds of the playoffs. So I mean, that would hurt them as well offensively. So get him back in the lineup, and I think they're going to be able to put up some goals in this series. When you're looking at the other advantage, which is goaltending, obviously, I think we can all agree Tampa has the edge of net there with Vasilevsky over a combo of Kemper and, is it Francouz, right?
Francouz, yeah.
Adam, what do you think Colorado can do to overcome that?
They have to play solid defensively. Like, their whole team has to come back. And I think that's an advantage that Tampa's got. Like, you see them clogging lanes. That's exactly what Colorado needs to do. I remember watching a couple games against Toronto. Reason Toronto couldn't score was there was 2 to 3 bodies in lanes the whole time. They could not find any. Okay, well, before you say they can't score, most of the games that scored over 3 goals a game, just going to put that out there. But when they lost, and
even when the games they lost, they would often, the only time they didn't score 3 goals was game 7.
The most
continue though.
Time.
Well, let me tell you this, Ryan Pilon, Mean Gene Okerlund.
Continue. I want to hear the rest
his
of it.
mic again.
I couldn't really tell. Was that Hogan?
That was Hulk Hogan,
I thought.
Oh, yeah.
It was Macho Man Randy Savage.
It was
Look at my hands.
It was kind of like a combo because you said, let me tell you something, brother.
Oh, there, brother.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like, is this the Mega Powers? He's like doing both of them, maybe.
Combining them. But, you have to throw Elizabeth in there because she was kind of part of that too. So.
And then that's my Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, I thought you were the Bushwhackers.
Yeah, I was them too.
That would work too.
Yeah. Oh, so good, right? So in the next episode, Adam's just gonna do old 80s and 90s wrestling impersonations, and we're just gonna guess who it is. Because like our teams aren't in it, right? So like that's more entertaining than whoever these Colorado and
We'll just do one of those fantasy drafts for wrestlers.
Oh my god, how fun would that be, right? Oh man, how have we not done that?
Oh my God. That's what happens when Baron's not here, is this show gets totally off the rails. I'm sorry, Baron, if you're watching this.
Okay, so here's the deal.
Not watching.
What was the stat there? It was a goals against percentage per game.
It's basically so at 5-on-5, their goals against per 60, right? So
1 point.
Oh God, 1 sec here.
I think it was 1 point. Your mouse was in the way, so I couldn't.
So their goals against per 60 for Tampa, 1.81, which is first in these playoffs.
Unreal.
And then Colorado's is 2.47.
Right. Which is still pretty good.
Absolutely.
7th in these playoffs.
Well, Colorado, but they had to play Edmonton.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Colorado needs to go all world and heavy scoring. Makar needs to be flying. McKinnon needs to be utilizing his body and driving the net. Landeskog needs to do the same stuff as well and not get thrown off his game by guys like Zach Kassian and Mikko Rantanen. I'm going to say like Mikko Rantanen was a little quiet in that Edmonton series.
He's been kind of quiet these whole playoffs, hasn't he? Like, I don't even know how many points he has, but it doesn't feel like you hear his name that often. Yeah. I'm just going to look up his stats. Keep going.
He was taken off the top line, wasn't he? Because of Kadri, and then he was put back, or because of his injury. He's like getting more opportunity now, I think.
Well, I don't know, because Kadri was with the second line. That was the second line.
Oh, the second line.
Right. And who was Kadri playing with? Was Kadri playing with Landeskog then?
I think so. Oh, Rantanen has 17 points. He's third on the team in points.
Yeah, that's pretty
also
good.
Not bad. He just seemed
not being so hard on him. Okay, not everyone can be Matthews.
17 points in 14 games. We're just like, oh, he sucks.
It's terrible. Trade him to Calgary.
I think he's done all right. 5 goals.
Just seemed quiet.
Right.
He's like silent assassin.
Right. You know? Where it's like guys that really like when McKinnon was on the ice, you noticed. When he scored, you noticed. That's the same thing with Kadri in that line and Makar, right? I don't know. It's tough too because they're missing a big defenseman in Gerard as well.
That's tough. Having Jack Johnson. Is Jack Johnson's there in the top 4?
Jack Johnson, Eric Johnson, Josh Manson, Makar, and then
Devon Taves.
But I really like Devon Taves. Yes. Yeah. They've got a pretty good defensive.
Let's talk about that defense for a bit. So like, I honestly like these are 2 outstanding defensive teams. Who do you guys give the edge to on defense?
Colorado, because they have the best defenseman in the world.
Makar? You pick Makar over Hedman?
I pick Hedman's done it.
Oh, he's done it. Yeah, but he's old. He's older, and he's
he's not. Up. No, he's not older. He's going to play until he's 35. Sunjay.
I like how we just flip flop whatever position fits our needs.
I honestly though I think that like Tampa's defense is a little slower, but they're stay at home and positionally pretty sound.
They're huge.
Times, right?
I think they have like just a much different defense, right? Like I think Tampa swallows you whole and like really limits what you can do in the offensive zone, whereas Colorado's just so mobile and fast.
Yeah.
Like Josh Manson's a big guy. I don't know what I guess the Johnsons are pretty big, right? They're probably not the most mobile guys. Jack
call them the vaccine twins. Hey, Johnson and Johnson.
Oh, I like it.
The vaccine.
So you guys supposed to say Colorado?
No,
Adam defensively.
Said, Tampa.
No,
you said Tampa.
I'll give Tampa the edge, just because I think they're more of a steady stay-at-home defensive style. So I don't think you're going to catch them out of position too often, as opposed to Colorado, where that might happen, which happened to Edmonton as well. You know, you catch your defenseman pinching in, and they got bit a couple times with 2-on-1s.
Yeah. For me, it's tough. Like I give, like the top pair, Makar and Taves. I take them over Hedman. And who's Hedman play with? Sergachev?
Sergachev, I wouldn't take him. You got
really?
So like I would say if they're top pairing, I would go to Colorado, but I think depth wise, I would go Tampa.
No, you're wrong there.
You're completely wrong.
You're wrong.
Honestly, like Cale Makar, I have to agree. I think he's the best defenseman on the planet right now. But because he's good defensively as well as off. No, he's good defensively as well.
Did you see that poke check on McDavid?
That was excellent.
And then Devon Taves at the halfway point, I had as like my Norris favorite. Like because Makar was out, he was their number 1, and he was outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
He's a legit number 1 on a lot of teams. Devon
Yeah,
Toews.
and Colorado got him for like 2 second-round picks. Like, what is Sakic doing to other GMs to constantly pull off these kind of trades? It's ridiculous.
Him and Yzerman are just geniuses.
I was just
and
about
like someday we're going to have that Colorado Detroit rivalry again with Sakic versus Yzerman, but they're up in the press boxes, right? Or they're
oh my god,
their team boxes.
Well, like Yzerman built this team, right? Like he was the architect before
That's
he
true.
moved on to
You're
Detroit.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of this team is from Yzerman.
Yeah. So I think Colorado is very similar to Tampa Bay. Like if you look at their makeup and like their build, a lot of high draft picks, shrewd trades, they're bringing in veterans. Like I think Colorado maybe didn't study. Well, yeah, maybe they like studied the Tampa Bay model and said, that's how we want to do it. And if you look at how they got here, a lot of it mirrors what Tampa Bay had to go through.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough.
Like I remember Tampa Bay being the joke of the league when they got Stamkos, right? And like they're playing in Europe to start the league season one year, right? Like they were like,
oh yeah, they had to go through some rough years.
They had some rough years, and now they're.
I mean, they also like. I remember they went to the finals with that triplet line. Johnson was like their best player at that time with Kucherov and Palat. No, was it Palat or Palat?
It was Killorn, wasn't it? Not Killorn.
No,
Palat,
it wasn't Killorn. No, it was Tyler Johnson because he was like their leader in points at that time until he got that wrist injury, and then they had Kucherov on the wing, and I think it was Palat. Or maybe it was Point. I can't remember. But anyways, it was one of those two guys. I just remember because I had all three of them in my fantasy pool for that playoffs and won the playoffs. But they went to the final that year. And then was it the next year they had like that just got ravaged by injuries and missed the playoffs. And then they kind of floundered for a little bit, right? They got swept by Columbus after that amazing regular season, like one of the best regular seasons we've seen ever in the Cap era. And then now they're on ready for a three-peat or trying to go for a three-peat. So, I mean, and like, honestly, this three-peat, like, I mean, if they get it, like, what does that mean for their legacy guys?
Oh, well, they join Pittsburgh, they join Chicago in the rank and LA in the ranks of
they surpass them in my opinion.
Absolutely they surpass them, but they join them as dynasty, right? And they were already dynasties in my eyes. But above that, Patrick Maroon goes down as our generation's greatest winner.
Four
consecutive Stanley Cups. That'd be unreal.
He would be the first player since '83 to do it.
Who was that? There's someone.
It was a bunch of Islander players because they all won it with the Islanders.
Yeah. And I think, like, you know, you look at that Islanders team, how many of them are in the Hall of Fame and how many of them are like so fondly remembered? Like, I think we're not really appreciating what Tampa Bay's doing because the first one was like the COVID Cup. So they had like, you know, some differences. And then the second one was like, you know, there were some there's no fans and it was a little bit like that. And they had to play Montreal in the Cup final. So it was a little bit weird. You know, they weren't playing like a Western team and playing like the Habs that kind of just squeaked in. But this is like, you know, you can say this is their first like legitimate. I mean, I don't want to say that, but like you could make that argument. But the fact that they won 3 in a row and it's just kind of like being like scratched on the surface, like this is like monumental. If this was Pittsburgh, you'd never hear the end of it with like Crosby and Malkin, or if this was Chicago with Taves and Kane, like you'd never hear the end of it.
I don't think we'll hear the end of it if they win 3. Because like I said, they'll have done something that we haven't seen since the 80s. And it's so much harder now because the season's longer than it was back then. There's more teams in the league. Now there's a cap, a hard cap that you have to stick to as well. So it's hard to build a dynasty and keep teams together to be able to do it. Honestly, like this is going to be one of the best teams ever. And for sure, the best team ever since the salary cap era. Because, I mean, we had like dynasties like Chicago, which like, I mean, I'd argue, sure, they were a legit dynasty, probably still Pittsburgh too. I mean, that core each won 3 cups. So, I mean, it's fair to call them, you know, modern day dynasties, but this is a legitimate dynasty if they go 3 straight, something I never thought we'd ever see again.
Yeah. It's hard with that word dynasty because these dynasties like were around when there weren't 32 teams in the league. Right. So I think like the definition of a dynasty needs to be a little bit warped.
Like we haven't seen in my eyes, like a legit dynasty. I would still I know the Oilers never won 3 in a row, but they won, what was it, 6 and 7 years, wasn't it, or something like that?
No,
or
not
five
that
and,
much.
5
Only
and 7 years. 5 and 7 years. Sorry, 5 and 7
yeah,
years.
don't get ahead of yourself. Okay, they lost in '86 to the Flames.
The math
okay?
wouldn't have worked if I said 6 and 7. 5 and 7 years. They won. I mean, that still to me is legit dynasty. But we haven't seen it since then. Actually, would you consider Detroit's a dynasty with their back-to-back cups?
The problem with Detroit and Colorado is that they would beat the hell out of each other, and then you had Dallas, right? They had 3, Detroit and Colorado were equal in my eyes, in terms of greatness. Tampa doesn't really have that equal. Maybe Colorado will be it now, but they don't have that equal in the Eastern Conference. That whoever wins that series is probably going to win the cup. And you look at the '90s, it was Colorado, Detroit, whoever wins that, and then you throw Dallas in too.
Yeah. Well, you had them meet so often in the playoffs, right? And it was usually the semifinal that they were meeting each other. So
or the conference final, right? They had played.
That's what I meant. The West final, right? Yeah. The semifinal. So, when you're constantly meeting the same team every time to be able to get to the cup, that definitely builds a rivalry. I don't think Tampa just really has that rivalry. I know they're trying to build it with Florida, and they've met twice now in the playoffs, but both times the series were kind of a letdown, right? So
maybe the Leafs will be that rival, right? Maybe if they meet again next year, it's going to be a crazy series again.
Yeah. So. Yeah. But that was the first time they've ever met, so they'd have to do it again. But it was a good playoff series, so we'll see. The other kind of incredible storyline with this, Corey Perry, he's about to pull Marian Hossa, he's kind of pulled a Marian Hossa. If he wins it, he'll have officially pulled a Marian Hossa, and that he's made it to the Cup final 3 years in a row on 3 separate teams. He lost the first 2. If he wins this one, then there you go. He'll pull off the Marian Hossa officially.
That's right. And he can thank Patrick Maroon.
Does this put Corey Perry in the Hall of Fame in your eyes, or is he already in? Does he have to win?
I think he's
already in. He's already in it.
Well, he's won a Hart, right?
And he won a cup with the Ducks.
He won a cup with the Ducks. Yeah. Internationally, he's won gold.
Yeah.
I think it's just hard to remember how good he was, because he's been kind of, a bottom 6 guy for a while now.
Yeah, his point totals aren't there. He doesn't have 500 goals, 1,000 points.
Right.
I don't think, I'd have to look it up. Maybe he does, but I don't think he does. It just seems if you look at the success he's had on teams, and he's been a big part of those championships, then you throw that in. Yeah, I could see it. But if he was just playing, if he played his whole career in Columbus and had these same stats and is the same player, no one would talk about him.
I'll tell you what, I'd probably take Corey Perry over Ryan Getzlaf. Hall of Fame.
Going to the front of the net. He's going,
and I think Ryan Getzlaf will get in there. I just don't think they'll be first ballot Hall of Famers. I think they'll both have to wait for a bit. But
yeah, it'll be tough with Getzlaf, because he won the one cup, but he kind of just stayed in Anaheim, and then they haven't been good in a long time. So a lot of people's memories of Getzlaf isn't his young days when he was tearing it up, right?
But he also gets all those team records, right? Most points and everything. I don't know how many records he has, but I think he has does he have most points for the franchise? I think so.
Or Solani, maybe.
I think he passed Solani.
And that's another thing. Look at his teammates too in that era.
Yeah.
You got Pronger, Niedermeyer, Timo Solani, Paul Kariya, all these guys.
Well, he definitely wasn't the driver of the team back when they won the cup, right? He was just coming up at that time. Yeah. But the Ducks were a legitimate team with Getzlaf at the helm for quite a while.
Oh, I remember. They beat us quite a few times in the playoffs.
Yeah. So they were always there. They just never could win it again. I think he got to a final again. Didn't Anaheim get to a final with them?
I don't think so.
A conference final.
Maybe a conference final.
That's when the Kessler pad pull.
Oh yeah, that was so grimy. I can't believe that counted.
You and I.
Oh, that's right, because
even that last goal, that last goal in the Colorado series. Hear me out. High stick in overtime.
Oh, they're not calling that back. If that was Calgary, that would not be
calling the kickback.
Oh yeah, if that was Calgary, it would be no goal. They looked at the jersey. They're like, see, is it Calgary or Colorado? It's Colorado, let it stand. Calgary, no goal.
American market. We are not going to do this today. Mm-hmm. It's an American market.
Yeah, if Calgary had joined.
keep that damn axe in his heart, okay? That is a damn good goal. I don't care if he reached 20 feet up with his goddamn stick. That goal counts.
Oh yeah, they'll come up with some like weird science to say that.
Or I'm calling Gary. Or I'm calling Gary.
Yeah. I mean, it's
actually
I could go all day about Calgary getting screwed in the playoffs. It happens quite a bit. And unless you're a Sabres fan,
for all of our teams, after every playoff loss, all you heard was about the conspiracy against the teams and how the refs are against them, right? Like Leafs did it, Flames fans did it, Oilers fans did it.
There was
ours was legit.
Photo. There was a team photo of the Colorado Avalanche.
I saw that.
The game that was going around with 4 refs just standing in the picture. I was like, could have been more true.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, well, I mean, you guys got it in round 2, so I mean, maybe it like skipped. So like Colorado got it in round 3, so maybe now Tampa will get it in round 4. Colorado fans after this will say, "Oh, the refs hate us."
Yep, that's exactly it.
Guess we'll find out. All right, boys, I think it's prediction time to wrap up this episode. Before I get to your guys' predictions, our fearless leader Baron Zeroni wanted to send us a video giving his prediction. So I'm going to share that video now, and let's hear what he had to say.
Okay, I'm going to try not to get hit in the face with elm seeds, so here it goes. This is my prediction video because I'm not on the episode today. So let's talk about this briefly. The 2 teams matching up are going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Colorado Avalanche. Now, if you're in the West, you might be cheering for Colorado. If you're in the East, you might be cheering for Tampa, as they have a chance to do something historic. I think the winner of this is going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I'm going to tell you quickly why. 1, Tampa Bay has better goaltending. Goaltending has always been an issue for the Colorado Avalanche, and even though they thought they fixed it this year, it really hasn't been. 2, I'm going to say the defense is actually better in Tampa. I know Cale Makar is an elite level defenseman, and he's doing things other defensemen haven't, but I know what Hedman can do, and honestly, the best defenseman I've ever seen in my life live is Victor Hedman, and I just have a feeling that he can do it again. And 3, even though I know Colorado has the offensive punch, I think it's actually going to be a little bit of the other way around here, whereas they've had to work a little bit harder to get their goals in Tampa, and I think because of that, this is their chance to actually push beyond those things. So for those 3 reasons, and if you want to throw in a 4th reason, because I think Corey Perry is going to finally break his streak of being in the losing team, and if he's not, then that's great too, because man, that guy can like take a team to the final. That should get you signed no matter what. So I'm going to say Tampa, and to make it juicy, I'm going to say in 5.
There we go. Tampa 5.
I'm surprised he wasn't just bashing me. He's like, "Oh, Sunjay's on this episode." That's
when he said he was sending me a video, I really expected something like that. So I was surprised it was like a legitimate prediction.
Hats on him. He's so professional. I would not have done the same.
Well, now and then he can put on his suit and tie and act professionally, once in a year or so.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to you, Sunjay. What are your predictions for this series?
This kind of reminds me a bit of the 80s, where the Islanders, had won numerous Stanley Cups, and the Oilers were like the young, hot team with all their firepower, and it didn't go so well for Edmonton. So, as much as I'm cheering for Colorado, I think that they might learn a lesson here and they'll be back. But I've always bet against Tampa, or said like Tampa's not going to win every series, except against the Leafs. I did say they would win in 7. So
you bastard, the one time.
I think Tampa wins this in 6. That's what my brain is saying, but my heart is saying Colorado has never lost a Stanley Cup Finals. Joe Sakic is the greatest captain of all time, and he's going to give terrific speeches to the Avs. He's going to get them pumped up, and Colorado's going to win that in 7. So brain, Tampa in 6, heart, Colorado in 7.
Great.
What a ripoff. Like, I picked both Colorado and Tampa.
Okay, fine.
Now
if you want, okay,
wrong.
fine. Okay, you know what? Okay, fine. You know what? Screw the brain. I'm just going for my heart. Okay, I'm a guy that goes with my gut. Forget everything I said. Okay, you want to make me make a prediction? Fine. All right, no copping out. Colorado in 7.
Colorado in 7. All right, Adam, what do you think?
Well, Baron said everything I was thinking. Like,
You guys have been together on this pod for too long.
Oiler fans just like have the one brain. Like, okay, well,
like you mentioned Hedman. Like I think Hedman is the best.
Is incredible. Yeah.
You know, this goaltending, like if it's coming down to goaltending, Tampa the whole way. And they have a number of guys that have been there and done it and can do it again. And that includes Perry, even though he's choked over the last like 2 years. And, you know, they have the NHL's golden boy in Patrick Maroon, ex-Oiler. I got to stick with them. And I'm going to say Tampa Bay in 6.
All right. I'm also going to go Tampa in 6. I think the amount of injuries Colorado is dealing with is going to be an issue. I think not having Sam Girard in that top 4 hurts. I think not having Nazem Kadri as your second line center hurts. I think Cogliano might be out to start the series as well. And then Kemper was hurting at the end of the last series. Not sure how he's feeling. But if he's hurting as well, I mean, that doesn't help. And already I think Vasilevsky has the advantage over Kemper in terms of talent. You add an injury to Kemper, and now you're probably having to go back and forth between him and Francouz throughout the series. So, I mean, I think they're both fantastic teams. But I'm going to give the edge to Tampa. And like I said, they're going to win in 6, and guaranteed after that, you're going to be hearing Leaf fans saying we would have won the cup if we beat Tampa. That's
100%. Yeah. If Tampa doesn't win this in 7, like if they win this in like 4 to 6, and Leafs fans all summer you'll hear we were the toughest test.
We were.
The West sucks. The West sucks. It's just the West sucks.
We would have gone to the cup and won the cup, and we would have.
Yeah.
It was the
Tampa
Pacific
Toronto
Division.
should have been the Stanley Cup Final.
They put up, they said the Pacific Division was a joke, and now it's going to be the whole West is a joke.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Get rid of the divisions, get rid of the conferences, just 1 versus 16, and all your way through. We would have wound up with Toronto versus Tampa in the Stanley Cup Final. What a cup final that would have been.
Oh yeah, I mean,
the two legitimate best teams in the NHL. Anyways,
well, if you're a non-Leafs fan, I mean, how could you argue with that, guys? Right? Like they took the 2-time defending, maybe 3-time defending Cup champs to 7. I mean, the Islanders last year took them to 7 in the conference finals, and they had such a terrific season this year. So I mean, you just know.
Well, fair enough.
Fair enough. The Tampa Bay Lightning are like Shawn Michaels, and the Toronto Maple Leafs are like Marty Jannetty.
You know what the Leafs are like? Have you guys ever seen that movie? It was a Good Luck Chuck. I think that was what it was called, where like anyone who slept with that guy, they would find their true love and get married. That's the Leafs. The Leafs are Good Luck Chuck, because I think it's the three of the past times they've lost in these first rounds, the team has gone on to the Cup Final.
That's something that you
Boston
guys should
did it. Montreal did it last year, and now Tampa did it. So they've 3 times the team has gone on to the Cup Final. So
right. I mean, why can't you just win around? Like just win around, and then it would be all fine. If you had just
too nice, they're too nice.
Good.
It feels good. It's not that hard. Like Calgary did it this year. Edmonton won 2. Like just do it. Like every Canadian team's won a round. Like what?
Yeah, it's the curse, man. The curse is
okay.
Real.
Let's make a bet. Who wins a round first? Seattle Kraken or the Toronto Maple Leafs?
I'll put $100,000 on Seattle. I'm just kidding. I think Toronto will win.
I'm hoping Toronto gets it next year. Honestly,
I'll say Seattle. I'll say Seattle. So we'll do like a beer, like a gentleman's like beer bet. So when we like get in person, whoever wins a round first.
If you win that beer, we'll be having that beer in like at least 5-6 years.
Well, you don't know. Like Seattle, maybe
you don't know, but I don't think Seattle.
Like Vegas, like came out of nowhere, right? So
yeah. We'll see. All right, boys. Well, I think that should do her. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. Again, please subscribe. We appreciate it. Leave comments below. We'd love to answer any questions you have. Smash the like button as well. And we will see you next week. And next week might be our final episode of the season. I guess just depends on how long the series goes. So
that's right.
With that.
I also think that we'll do some quite possibly like a free agency
Yeah, we might come. Yeah, we might have like a sporadic,
the odd one.
the odd episode here and there throughout the summer for some big news items. So
it all depends on if Gaudreau resigns in Calgary. Like, I'm not going to do a free agent episode. I'm talking about him.
It's going to be Gaudreau.
Okay,
Gaudreau not resigning, and it's going to be another solo Sunjay episode where you
it's going to be
just cry it's going to be on camera.
Rush.
It'll be a leave Brittany alone video.
Oh my God. It'll be like, like when Gretzky got traded and he's crying, and then it's like, I promised Mess. I'd be like, I promised Adam I wouldn't do this.
All right, boys. Well, that was fun. All right. Well, see you next week for Delayed Offside. I'm Ryan.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Sunjay.
See you guys next week.
Delayed.